Hello students, I hope you all are doing good. So as you all are aware that I'll be handling from chapter 3, okay, in corporate structure and administration. Now, before we begin with the third chapter, that is administration of a company, let's find out what is corporate structure and administration. Corporate structure, what does the word corporate structure suggest? It is a company. Corporate means a company, right? It is an organization. Now what is structure? Structure is the hierarchy. Okay, this is a company. In a company there will be hierarchy. Okay, if you've already studied this in your business studies in your second PUC, right? That is, you will have top level management, you will have middle level management, you will have low level management. So this is corporate structure. This is the structure of the company, wherein in the top level you will have managers, directors. Okay, you will have managers, directors. Okay, you will have company secretary, you will have various other people in the top position. In the middle level you will have various different managers, that is managers who will be basically your finance manager, your human resource manager of different departments. Under your low level you will have your key personnel, or you will have your receptionist. All of these will come under low level management. Now what is corporate structure? You understood what is corporate structure. It is the structure of the company. What is administration? Administration is how you are governing the company, how you bring in rules and regulations in the company in order to maintain peaceful relations in the company, to ensure proper cooperation and coordination. Okay, how you administer the company, how you go about working of a particular company. So this is about corporate structure and administration. So your third chapter is administration of a company. Okay, so to begin with your third chapter, let's start. Okay, firstly you have your introduction. Under your introduction, it says the executive management of the company. The executive, what is executive? Executive is basically those people who are responsible for executing the rules and regulations. Okay, establishing. Executive, nothing but establishing. The executive management of a company is responsible for day-to-day management of company. These are the executive management. See, management is a wide concept. It is a global concept. I think you're already studying business dynamics and entrepreneurship, so you all know what management is. Management is basically the art of getting things done through others, right? So executive management here is responsible for carrying out the day-to-day management of the company, how they carry out the day-to-day activities of the company. Now, the Companies Act 2013 has used the term key management personnel to define executive management. They have used the term key management personnel to define the executive management. Okay, the key management personnel are the point of first contact between company and stakeholders. Now what are stakeholders? You'll have shareholders, you have creditors, all of these, right? So stakeholders is basically, it will be the owners, equity shareholders, it will be your creditors, it will be the general public, your creditors, debtors, all of them will come under stakeholders. Okay, while basically all it says is that executive management is responsible for carrying out day-to-day activities of the company, and also they establish contact between the company as well as the stakeholders. So this is about the introduction. Now let's look into your next topic, that is key management personnel. Now key management personnel, the Companies Act has for the first time recognized the concept of key management personnel. It says that the Companies Act of 2013 for the first time has recognized what is key management personnel. Okay, as per section 2 subsection 51, key management personnel in relation to a company. This is a very important topic, please note. Okay, they might ask in exam as to what is key management personnel, so you need to write the definition and you need to write the sections as well. Okay, so according to section 2 subsection 51, key managerial personnel in relation to a company, in relation to a company only. Okay, company means firstly that is the chief executive officer or the managing director or the manager. Okay, as I told you all, these people belong in the top level management of a particular company. So whom do these key management personnel consist? Firstly, it is consisting of a CEO or the managing director. Next you have the company secretary, who will be again in the top management. Okay, then a whole time director. Basically this director will be responsible for framing all the rules and regulation, implementing all the rules and regulation. Again, this is under top management. You will have a chief financial officer, who will be responsible for taking into consideration all the decisions regarding finance, budgeting, forecasting. Okay, where to carry out day-to-day operations. All of this he will take into control, all the money matters. Fifth one, you have such other officer as may be prescribed. Any officer, it can also consist of any officer who is apart from all of these as per the particular company. Next, you will have resident director and independent director. So basically, this particular 7 people will form a key managerial personnel. Who are they? They are CEO, managing director, company secretary, whole-time director, chief financial officer or a CFO, such other officer as prescribed, resident director and independent director. This is a very important topic. Please note as to who come under the key managerial personnel as per section 2 subsection 51 of the Companies Act 2013. So let's move on to your next topic, that is appointment of key managerial personnel. Okay, now what is key managerial personnel? We all saw who come under key managerial personnel. Okay, now how do you appoint these people, these 7 people? How do you appoint? We'll look into this particular topic. Okay, as per section 203 of the Companies Act 2013, read with Rule 8, mandates the appointment of key managerial personnel and makes it obligatory for a listed company. Okay, so basically you will have something known as a listed company and an unlisted company. A listed company is the one which is listed with the Companies Act of 2013. Okay, unlisted company is the one which is not listed as per the Companies Act of 2013. Okay, listed company enjoys a lot of rights, okay, rules, and they have a lot of opportunities. Okay, government gives them a lot of opportunities in their way. Okay, so now it makes it obligatory for a listed company and every other public company having a paid up share capital of rupees 10 crore. Okay, it includes the key man appointment includes a listed company, okay, or a public company whose share capital is rupees 10, paid up share capital is rupees 10 crores or more, to appoint the following with a whole-time key managerial personnel. Now let's see as to how you appoint key managerial personnel and who are the people who are being appointed as the key managerial personnel. First one is your managing director or chief executive officer, manager in the absence of whole-time director. Firstly, you are appointing a managing director. Second, you are appointing a chief executive officer. Third, you are appointing a manager only in the absence of whole-time director. If whole-time director is there, you will not appoint a manager. Okay, but if the manager is appointed, he will be appointed only if the whole-time director is not there. But if a whole-time director is there, manager will not be appointed. So these are the 4 points you need to remember. Second, in the key management personnel, you will see the company secretary. Okay, company secretary will be appointed. Then you will be appointing chief financial officer. Okay, now every whole-time key managerial personnel of a company shall be appointed by means of resolution. See, when you are working in a particular company, if you are supposing if you are in the top management, you will exactly know as to how the meetings are conducted in an organization, how the appointment of management, how the appointment of managers, board of directors, okay, all this is done. Basically, they will conduct a particular board meeting. In that they will they will pass a resolution. Okay, they will basically there will be 4 to 5 people who will nominate for different positions. Okay, suppose one person is nominating for managing director, second person is managing for any branch manager, third is opting for chief financial officer, and another one for company secretary. Now the board will take a decision whether this particular person is capable of being hired as being hired as a chief financial officer or not. Will he be able to handle all the duties or regulations or not, and whether the person is capable. Based on that, they will pass a resolution in the board. Okay, now the board will contain terms and conditions of appointment, including the remuneration. I think you've all studied this in your business studies, okay? So this will become very easy for you. Remuneration, okay? Now, when you are appointing any of the four, okay, any of the three or any of the four, that is your CFO, company secretary, chief executive officer, or your chief financial officer, the minute you appoint them in the company, that time only you should tell them the remuneration. What is remuneration? Remuneration is nothing but it is salary. Okay, you should tell them what the salary is and what is their monthly salary and how much can they expect. Okay, now an individual will not be appointed or reappointed as the chairperson of the company. Very important, individual, okay, any individual will not be appointed or reappointed as the chairperson of the company, as well as managing director or chief executive officer of the company at the same time, unless the article, see, there will be one individual cannot be given 2 or 3 posts at the same time. Either he can be appointed as a company secretary, either he can be appointed as a chief financial officer, or he can be appointed as a chief executive officer. He cannot be appointed as he cannot be given 3 positions at the same time. This is what it says. So individual shall not be appointed or reappointed reappointed as the chairperson of the company, as well as managing director, chief executive officer at the same time. Okay, he might be appointed at different times, but not at the same time. Now, not at the same time unless, okay, unless he will not be appointed at the same time unless the articles of such company provide otherwise, or the company does not carry any multiple businesses. If the company, suppose, is involved in a lot of businesses, multiple businesses, they are into marble manufacturing, they are into textiles, they are into they are into wood, they are into stationaries and all of this. If the company is into multiple businesses, they are into fabrics and all of that, then the company cannot appoint one individual for various positions. But if the company is involved in one particular business, that time, according to the terms and conditions or as the policies suggested by the government or the Companies Act of 2013, some resolution may be passed and they will be appointed in any way. Okay, however, such a class of companies engaged in multiple businesses and which has appointed one or more chief executive officer for each such businesses may be notified by the central government are exempted from the above. Okay, if the central government is telling, okay, fine, if you are only carrying out one particular business and you do not have any people who are capable of being in that particular position, then you can hire the same person for all the above posts. But if you are carrying out multiple businesses and you have people who are capable, then you cannot hire only one individual for all the roles. Okay, this was your first point. Your second point, what are we looking into? We are looking into how the appointment of key managerial personnel is done. Okay, second point is a whole-time director or whole-time key managerial personnel. Okay, it says a whole-time key managerial personnel shall not hold office in more than one company except in its subsidiary company. Okay, as you all are aware, there will be a parent company and there will be a parent company and subsidiary company. Now, what is a parent company? Parent company is the company which is located in the hometown. Suppose if the parent company, suppose if you are an individual and you want to establish a company, okay, you are opening it in India, that will become your parent company. Same branch if you're opening in, suppose in US or something, that will become your subsidiary company. Okay, so it says if you have a whole-time manager or a key managerial personnel, he cannot work in more than one company. Okay, he cannot work more than one company. But if you have your own companies in different locations, he can work there. Okay, at the same time, however, he can hold such other directorship with permission on the board. Only if the company is giving you permission that you can work in the subsidiary company also, only then he will be appointed. But if he is working in one company, he cannot work in another company as a director. It is wrong. Okay, he will be employed only in one company itself. Okay. A whole-time key managerial person holding office in more than one company at the same time shall, within a period of 6 months from such commencement, choose one company in which he wishes to continue to hold the office of a key managerial person. Suppose if a particular person who already is who is already hired in an organization, who's already working in an organization, within 6 months of getting his job, he should properly decide whether he wants to continue or he wants to leave. Okay, and he should properly be he should be clear in his mind how he needs to work and where he needs to work. Okay, so this is what this particular point is saying. Now let's move on to your third point of appointment. Okay, a company may appoint or employ a person as its managing director. A company can or may appoint or employ a person as managing director if he is the managing director or manager of one and not more than one. Okay, they are telling a particular person can be appointed as a managing director if he is only working in that particular company, not in more than one company. Okay, other company. And such appointment or employment is made or approved by a resolution passed at the meeting of the board with the consent of directors present at the meeting, of which meeting and of the resolution to be moved threat specific notice has to be given to all directors. This point says that if a particular person can be appointed as a managing director if he is only working in one company and not more than one company. And how will he be appointed? He will be appointed in the board meeting by passing a resolution wherein there will be all the directors and the top management will be present. By passing a resolution, they will appoint them by involving all the directors with the consent of all the board members. Okay. Let's move on to your next topic. Next point, if the office of any whole-time key managerial personnel is vacated, the resulting of vacancy shall be filled up by the board meeting of the board within a period of 6 months from such vacancy. See, suppose now what happens if you've already appointed one person for the any post, okay, but now due to certain reasons the person might pass away, he might go through death, or he might go through accident, or he might fall sick. So in that ways, if you are having a vacancy in that office, so what you can do is you can call for a board meeting. Okay, you can call for a board meeting and see which person is eligible to fill in that particular vacancy. You can take into consideration every person who is present in the board meeting and the board of directors. You can take their consent and you can appoint a person and fill up that particular vacancy. Okay. Now let's move on to your next topic, that is managing director. As you all know, managing director is a person who has been appointed in a company and he belongs to the top level management. Okay. Now section 2 subsection 54 of the Companies Act of 2013 defines managing director. Okay, it stipulates that managing director means a director who, by virtue of the articles of company or in agreement with the company or a resolution passed in general meeting or by its board of director, is entrusted with substantial powers of management of the affairs of company, and includes a director occupying the position of managing director, whatever name called. It is nothing but it says if a person is appointed as a managing director, he will be appointed by a board meeting, by passing a resolution, and he will be entrusted, he will be given certain rules or powers in order to carry out his duties. Okay, he will be given necessary powers in a particular organization and he will occupy that position of the director. Okay, the explanation to section 2 subsection 54 excludes, okay, it is not including, it is excluding administrative acts of routine nature when so authorized by the boards, such as power to affix the common seal of a company to any document, or to draw and endorse any check on account of the company in any bank, or to draw and endorse any negotiable instrument, or to sign any certificate, or to share. See, just because a person is appointed as a managing director, it does not mean he has all the powers of the company. He cannot sign the checks for the company. He cannot put a seal in the name of the company. Okay, he cannot give any documents on behalf of the company. He cannot do that. So they are excluding him from the administrative acts of a routine nature. Okay, they are excluding him. Okay, he just because he is appointed as a managing director, it doesn't mean he can do all of this. They are excluding him from doing all of these acts. Okay.